AITA for expecting my wife to prioritize me for Father's Day instead of going to a funeral? Edit. If you're going to comment saying she's sleeping with her boss, move on. Subscribe to our channel, like and comment. The funeral was real. I dropped her off with some of her old coworkers so they could carpool to the funeral. The funeral was real as I saw multiple pictures of the service from mutual Facebook friends of hers. And she was there for longer because the service went longer than expected, and she was asked to go to the repast. My wife and I have 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Our 6-year-old is on the autism spectrum. It goes without saying that this is a very stressful position and neither of us get very much of a break from this. My wife is a SOM and I have a full-time job. As happy as our children make us, I don't think it's selfish for us to both desire breaks. We get them every here and there, but we made a deal to have 2 guaranteed breaks in a year. Our birthdays, and Mother's/Father's Day. On those days, the one parent takes on the brunt of the burden so the other can get a day to relax. Since our youngest was about 2, we practiced this. I have never failed to give my wife the day off she deserves. I'll schedule her a spa day, or something she really wants to do and get her out of the house so she can relax while I'm on daddy duty. Then when she gets back, our kids give her cards and gifts, and we get a meal from her favorite place after they go to bed. My wife has been less consistent, and doesn't really do as much as I do for her. The last year she hasn't really done anything. I typically try not to hold it against her as it is undoubtedly hard, but it does feel kind of unfair. This Father's Day, I planned something for myself as she made no indication of doing something for me. I warned her a week in advance, and she said it was okay. This was until about 3 days ago. My wife's old boss's dad passed away. She was invited to the funeral by the boss, and she chose to attend the funeral, which was about 2 hours away. As a result, I had to cancel all of my plans and take care of the kids. She was supposed to be home at around 5 in the evening but didn't arrive until around 10. The kids were already asleep and my wife neglected to help them get even Father's Day cards for me. We got into a huge argument when she got back. I told her that I felt like she really dropped the ball on this, and didn't give me a break like I usually do for her. She told me that she's home with the kids all day just about every day and I only have to help out after work, and as far as she's concerned I regularly get a break, and she doesn't. I told her working isn't a break, and that I really was looking forward to today. She said that someone died and I was being completely selfish to make it about me. I said that it was someone she didn't know who was the parent of someone she hasn't seen in over a year, and I didn't think I was being selfish in asking her to prioritize my needs just as a gesture like I do hers. She's been pissed at me since, and we're not talking. Ida? Edit. My wife is not sleeping with her boss. Her boss is a married gay man. AITA for leaving my surprise wedding because I felt blindsided. Subscribe to our channel, like and comment. Last week, I, 30F, was invited to a supposedly fancy party by my longtime boyfriend, Mark, 32M. We had been dating for 5 years, and while we had discussed marriage before, there were no immediate plans for a wedding. Excited about the event, I dressed up in my best attire and arrived at the designated venue. As I entered the grand hall, I was completely taken aback to see all of our family, friends, and acquaintances gathered, eagerly waiting. It turns out, Mark had orchestrated an elaborate surprise wedding for us without my knowledge. Everyone erupted into applause as I stood there, shocked and overwhelmed. I just felt a mix of emotions. While I loved Mark and had dreamed of our future together, the idea of getting married without any prior discussion or consent felt like a breach of trust. So, I pulled Mark aside and tried to express my concerns and reservations about the surprise wedding. I explained that I wanted a say in the planning process, to be part of the decision-making, and to have the chance to prepare mentally and emotionally for such a significant milestone in our lives. However, Mark dismissed my concerns, saying that he thought it would be a romantic gesture and that I would be thrilled. In that moment, I faced a difficult choice: go along with the surprise wedding, putting on a smile despite feeling unsettled, or stand up for my autonomy and voice my true feelings. I ultimately made the decision not to proceed with the surprise wedding, much to the disappointment and confusion of our guests. Now, I find myself at odds with Mark, our families, and even some of our friends who believe I overreacted and spoiled the beautiful moment. However, I firmly believe that a marriage should be a joint decision, with open communication and shared expectations. Everyone's excuse for this is I have always talked about marrying Mark. And again, the problem isn't marrying him, the problem is not having any say in my wedding. Mark thought I'd appreciate it, because I always spoke about how stressful planning a wedding must be. Yes, I think it's stressful, it is, but I'd still like planning one. After this whole ordeal, everyone asked if Mark and I were ending things, in which I replied no. I emphasized towards them and Mark I still wanted to marry him. And most feel like this is making me more of an asshole since I just wasted a perfectly fine wedding. So AITA for refusing to attend my own surprise wedding, even though it was intended as a romantic gesture? Edit. I previously omitted this from my post because of the subreddit's word count guidelines. I love surprises, it's a thing everyone has known me to love. Mark, knowing that, the fact I wanted to marry him, and said wedding planning was stressful, thought a surprise wedding would be perfect. A surprise engagement is bland, because it will always be a surprise but not a wedding, lol. He threw this wedding for the surprise, but explained how in a couple days we could do a courthouse wedding to make it legal. This was his only way to surprise me. I love spontaneity, but legal marriage or not, I wanted a say in my wedding. To choose the perfect date, to choose my bridesmaids, to pick out my cake. Again, due to these thoughts, everyone thinks I'm the asshole, because I could have went along with the party, and do a redo legal wedding. But again I felt blindsided and confused, so I left. AITA for heating my son's lunch in my brother's microwave? Subscribe to our channel, like and comment. My son has sensory issues, likely will be diagnoses with autism in a few weeks, as well as chronic GERD. Whenever we go anywhere to eat I pack food for him. My brother is marrying Tisha. Tisha grew up in a fundamentalist religion. She's not nearly as devout as when she grew up. One of the things she's held on to is very specific dietary laws. Which is fine, but the way she enforces them seems very legalistic, and way beyond the point of any actual rules. Anyway, she had my brother change his whole kitchen to fit these dietary rules. He spent a fortune of money and now has 2 dishwashers. The problem is that now my brother won't let any food that Tisha doesn't pre-approve into the house. She either has to cook everything or they have to drive an hour to get food at restaurants she's okay with. This has caused some issues in our family. My brother, since before he met Tisha, has always hosted family events at his place, due to his central location and that he has the largest house by far. But now we have to eat what Tisha cooks or all eat outside on plasticware. Bad for the environment, and not feasible with our summers. Today we did Father's Day at my brother's house. We had pizza, which is my dad's favorite, but my son can't eat, so I brought a lunch for him. My brother has a microwave in his basement, and some old bowls I'm supposed to use. But today it was busted. So I just went and heated up his food in the kitchen. Tisha walked in while I was doing it and lost her mind. Started freaking out about what was in my son's lunch, what plates did I use, what did it touch, etc. Just borderline hysterical. Soon everyone was in the kitchen, my son was crying, my husband and brother were going at each other, it was just chaotic. Over some Dino nuggets. My dad's day was ruined. So we eventually left. And then my brother texts me saying how disrespectful I am. My husband is pissed. And now my mom wants me to apologize for putting my son's food in his uncle's microwave. I have no plans on doing any such thing and think I and my son should be apologized to. Ida?
AITA for now allowing dogs anymore at my cookouts? Subscribe to our channel, like and comment. Almost 4 months ago my wife, 26F, and I, 29M, had our first child, and we've been very low particular about who has been around him. Now that we are more comfortable around our son ourselves, we are open to having friends and family come around a bit more. Over Memorial Day weekend we planned a pool party / cookout and invited a lot of friends and family to meet our son. Many of them met him for the first time. My brother, 25M, lives a 3 to 4 hour drive away and has not met our son. He has not met his nephew because his work schedule is fairly seasonal and his job slows down significantly in May. Pre-baby we held pool parties frequently and he'd regularly drive into town for them with his German Shepherd. I'm indifferent about his dog. I'd never want the responsibility of one myself, but his dog is fine. He'd always ask about bringing his dog to parties and I laid down some rules for him. He had to clean up after it stayed outside, and it wasn't allowed in the pool. Outside of 1 or 2 instances over the years we've had problems. Now the issue here is that I don't want his dog to come over anymore because of our son. I informed him ahead of time of this new rule and he was pissed. He says everyone loves his dog and it's never been an issue. I told him things are different now. We have a young kid. I told him I've only ever seen his dog around adults, never children. It's not worth the risk for me. If God forbid something happened it would destroy our relationship. I asked him if he could leave the dog at home this time. He called me an asshole and said he wasn't coming. You are going to pass on meeting your nephew because I won't allow your dog anymore? You can't go one party without him? He said it's the principle of it all and it's bullshit that I've changed up the rules on him. Well, the party came and went and it was great, but we are still having issues. I got tons of questions about my brother and told them he had to be with his dog this weekend and left it at that. I was mad he wasn't there and I think people could tell when discussing him. AITA for my new rule? AITA for ruining Father's Day by telling my cousin the truth about why our uncle is not involved in her life? Subscribe to our channel, like and comment. Currently, my Uncle John and Aunt Gia are married. But before that happened, Gia had been married to my Uncle Grant for 5 years. Gia had been cheating on him with John. Uncle Grant was serving in the military for a lot of this time, so he didn't know until he returned home after an 8-month deployment to discover that Gia was already 3 months pregnant and she confessed everything. My grandparents sided with Uncle Grant at first, but after they learned John was going to marry Gia for the baby, Zoe, they told Grant to think of what's best for the baby and forget John and Gia's cheating. Uncle Grant doesn't talk to them anymore, but kept in contact with my dad and our family. Uncle Grant doesn't have a relationship with Zoe or her younger siblings, John Jr. and Emmy. He explained to me when I asked him as a teenager that he feels keeping his distance is the kindest thing, because he does feel resentment and he knows it wouldn't be fair to Zoe to bring that kind of energy around her, which I do understand. Since yesterday was Father's Day, me and my immediate family hung out with Uncle Grant in the morning and went to my grandparents' house in the evening of dinner. Zoe was at my grandparents' house with her parents and siblings. Zoe complimented my necklace and asked how I got it. I kept my response vague by saying, "Oh yeah, I got it as a birthday gift," and Zoe responded, "It was from Uncle Grant, isn't it?" Uncle Grant is the only one in our family who really has money, so I realize now that that would be obvious. I couldn't avoid it anymore without lying since Zoe asked directly, so I told her yes. Zoe got angry, saying that she knows from her parents that me and my brother constantly do fun stuff and get nice things from Uncle Grant, and she demanded to know why she and her siblings have never gotten that same treatment from him. Zoe then made a nasty accusation as to why Uncle Grant only treats me and my brother the way he does. At that point, I pulled Zoe into a private room and offered to tell her the truth, but warned her that her parents did some bad things and knowing would probably change the way she looks at them. Zoe still insisted on knowing, so I told her what happened in as unbiased a way as possible. Obviously, Zoe was shocked and upset. She ended up getting into an argument with her parents and they went home early. Several different family members called me after, and apparently it's a shit show at John and Gia's house. Zoe wants to stay with our grandparents and is giving her own parents the cold shoulder. John Jr. is suspicious and asking questioning, and Emmy is upset/confused because Zoe and her parents were all pretty close before. Only my parents, brother, and Grant have my back. All the other adults in the family said I ruined Father's Day and should have left the past in the past. Zoe will be 18 in August and demanded the truth. I felt she has a right to know. Ida. Edit for clarification, Uncle Grant, John, and my dad are all biological brothers. Gia has no biological relation to me. AITA for telling my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed till my brother-in-law and his daughters are out of our house. Subscribe to our channel, like and comment. My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane 18, with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe 16, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop, etc. Zoe complained a lot, and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this is typical teenage girls' behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 M.A.C makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed, and was crying. I told my wife and she said she'd ask Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoe a lock after I found she was moving valuable belongings out the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said my daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff. He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him this between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kicked them out and said her family'll hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming/blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces/granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe silent treatment, and my wife is very much upset over this.